Hello, everybody, and welcome back to IFD Radio. I am your host and the co-owner and director of IFD, Alex Mascitti. Want to get started today by talking about some of the biggest winners and losers of this weekend. I'm not talking just about results. I'm talking about the standings in general. And this week, the biggest loser of all of this clearly is Inter. I mean, every single one of the top five teams except for Inter won, and the table has all of a sudden really scrunched together. You know, heading into this week, it was a 4-point difference between Inter, Fiorentina, and Napoli, and now it's only one. Juventus, who've now won 7 straight, are right behind them with 33 points. So, all in all, the Serie A has really all of a sudden gravitational swing, just went straight to the middle. Everything is very balanced and very, at the moment, even. To put things in a different perspective for Inter, their goal difference is at 12, while every other team in the top 5 have a better goal difference than the Nerazzurri. And that's a bit worrying. That's a bit worrisome for Inter fans, but I don't think it's time to go to DEFCON 1 yet. I think they've got a little bit of luck coming up in their future schedule, in their future matches until February, but the going is about to get a little bit more difficult for the other sides in Italy. Juventus in February has a ridiculous schedule with the Champions League facing Inter, but for now, we're heading into the holiday break. Players have a little bit of time off, then it's full swing into the Mercato. The next round of fixtures starts on January 6th and 7th that weekend. Excuse me, that's actually midweek. So we're going to restart Serie A midweek in the first week of January. So there's a bit of a long gap in between action. You know, it's a good time for the foreign players to return back to their homes. You know, they really regroup heading also into the Mercato, which opens on January 4th, not January 1st in Italy. But furthermore, who also really impressed me this weekend was Fiorentina, a nice recovery from their defeat against Carpi in the Coppa Italia and the defeat prior to that to Juventus 3-1 at the Juventus Stadium. But Fiorentina recovered a 2-0 win over Chievo Verona, and they're right back in the hunt again for the Scudetto. It's a very, very tight and close race all around. Like I said, Napoli continue to really push ahead, and the whole table is getting, like I said, everything's coming together, and that's bad news for Inter Milan, despite them only having the Coppa Italia and Serie A to focus on. Teams like Juventus and Napoli, and to a degree you could say Fiorentina, are full of momentum heading into the next calendar season, the new calendar year. But I want to talk more about the Lazio-Inter game because this was a huge swing. I mean, for Lazio, the team has been struggling tremendously the last few weeks. In all in all, it really hasn't been a good season for the blue and white side of Rome. A goal difference in Serie A. They're just creeping back into the top 10. They are honestly they look like they're not going to be a factor at all in the European races, but I guess they have to pay the price for not really having a convincing Mercato strategy in the summer months, and that goes to show how competitive Serie A is. You know, if you look at the other leagues and you look at Serie A, this is the number one most competitive league from top to bottom. It's irrefutable at this point. It's completely it's impossible to reject the idea of how competitive Serie A is. And it's not because there's a lack of quality in Serie A. That couldn't be more false. It's because these teams have the best coaches in the world. They play brilliant football, and it goes deeper than the knowledge and tactics there is skill in Serie A. The money is not that they can't compete with the Premier League in finance. They can't do it. But Serie A is still, if I'm not mistaken, it's still a higher paying league on average than La Liga, which is that for the Spanish, it seems like it could be a 2 or 3 team league, and outside of that, there's really nothing. But for Serie A, you have a good 6 or 7 teams who would do well in Europe at any stage. But what's going to happen in January? January is a bit of a strange month. You have the Coppa Italia for a few teams, although you have, Lega Pro side Alessandria, and you have La Spezia in the quarterfinals. But it's a bit of a strange month in general. You have numerous teams out there who are trying to, I think, formulate a plot to be able to push forward in 2016, but you don't really have a full month. It isn't like a full focus Serie A month because you have, like I said, the Coppa Italia and Mercato to worry about. But I don't think you're going to see a lot of movement along the lines of some of the big clubs like Juventus, like Napoli. I just can't see these clubs coming out and spending a lot of money. I don't see it in January. I don't see Juventus going out and making a big splash in the transfer window because there's no need to sign a cup-tied player. And I think that only the players who are cup-tied are going to make a big enough difference. So where does that leave us? That puts us in the point of, Juventus are going to have to go out there and continue with the team they have, which I'm pretty sure will be fine by Allegri standards. The team is since the beginning of the season. AC Milan, on the other hand, they could come out and make a few buys, maybe even a few sales. I think you have players like Cherchi who could be moved. Possibly Mexes as well. There are rumors linking Mexes to Fiorentina, by the way. But outside of that, I don't see a bunch of action, a lot of movement in January. I would be very surprised to have a very active month. A lot of these clubs also, too, are looking to recover from FFP, FIFA Fair Play, finance, penalties like Roma and Inter. But besides that, you have a few teams that just don't need to make moves. I think Roma are the exception. I think you're going to see a lot of moves from the Giallorossi in 2016. A lot of it's hinging on their coach, depending on if Rudy Garcia stays or goes, which at this point it's up in the air because you have he's being confirmed on a week-to-week basis. There is no job security for Rudy Garcia. But furthermore, they've got problems in attack, and I think that's going to really hinder their progress going forward. I think that if Roma are really to be aim for the top 3 in terms of finishing there at the end of the year, I think that they're going to have to make some moves in January. They have a lot of leverage. They have a lot of chances to sell to raise some capital. Miralem Pjanic is certainly one. I think if he were to go, I really wouldn't be surprised. With Dzeko really struggling to find any form this season, I wouldn't be surprised if he went too. But these players, they made some big investments. Iterbe's gone. He'll be heading over to Watford. I believe if it's not official yet, it will be in the opening hours of the transfer window in January. Roma have a bit of a unique problem, but they are in the Champions League still, albeit they are facing Real Madrid. But depending on the goals of the club, the 2015-2016 season may have not been the pivotal year in the project. And I do believe that James Pallotta does have a full fledged project and idea heading into the future. Moving on. So there's another rumor going around that Jorginho will be extending his contract with Napoli. He's been a Renaissance man for Maurizio Sarri. Albeit he did get sent off yesterday against Atalanta. But Napoli is another side that I don't think you're going to see make a lot of moves. I think their sight is set on a top 3 finish. Maybe even, ideally it's a Scudetto run. They're only 1 point out. I think that their objective is the Europa League title. And with the current crop of teams in there and the way that form and things are beginning to align, such as form, I think the Europa League favorites this year are Napoli. Unless they have another debacle like they did last year against Sevilla, I don't see how Napoli could mess this one up. But Gonzalo Higuain has been unbelievable this year. Absolute superstar in every respect. He's been unbelievable. And that's going to be huge heading into the future if Napoli really want to make a Scudetto run. Again, I don't see how or why he wouldn't make a run. I don't see how he couldn't carry the team to make a run. Another big surprise this weekend was Milan Frosinone. Bit of a goal fest. Milan came out on top 4-2. And they probably played their best game in a long time. Milan are at this moment in time, they don't look to be too strong of a side. They're outside the top 5. A very poor defense. They have one of the worst defensive records in the top 10. Their offense, I think you could do. They're just a tick above average, but overall, they have had a problem all season of finding a solid 11 and holding the defense and being able to hold leads. And I think that's where a lot of the pressure comes on Mihailovic, is how his team's been consistent. You're heading into the last game of the calendar season in 2015, and you got to be happy with the 4-2 win against Frosinone away in the region of Lazio. Juventus yesterday beat Carpi in a wild match where they nearly lost the 3 points again. But they were traveling to Modena. They won 3-2. Marco Borriello opened the scoring in the 14th minute there, but Mario Mandzukic had a double. Can't really be too displeased with Juventus. They were very good in possession all day. Don't think you can really fault Bonucci for the own goal. Man, I don't know how you could really criticize Juventus except for being a little bit lackadaisical and being a bit careless in the dying embers of the match. But, I think that the biggest winner this week in terms of points, form, and actually getting the win is Juventus. You're winning 7 games in a row heading out into 2016. Serie A table is tight. We haven't had a real Scudetto race in Serie A for 3 years. This is an absolutely wild year for Serie A because the truth is we don't know who is going to end up on top. We don't know who is going to be the winner come May. We just don't. Theoretically, you have top 8 teams within 9 points of Inter, the league leaders. So it's the most exciting and unexpected in terms of results and outcomes. It is the most unpredictable season in Serie A that we've had in quite some time. But I think there's a lot more going on behind the scenes than what meets the eye with the whole race in Serie A. There's 4 teams. I've marked it down to 4 teams who have a realistic chance of lifting the Scudetto. And at the moment, it is the top 4 sides. They are a cut above. They are a cut above of the rest of the league. And heading out into the rest of 2016, my prediction is that you're going to see Juventus being able to come out and make it a really close one. I don't think it's going to be, something that's decided weeks in advance. I'm talking, we're going to see a grand finale at the end of Matchday 38 because everything is right there. Everything is there for a photo finish. Everything is there. All the ingredients and conditions are there to have a match, have somebody come out the champion on Matchday 38 when the season ends. It's actually a bit strange, but the way the calendar falls is we're not exactly at the halfway point of the season yet. We still have 2 games to go until we reach Matchday 19, which is the half-day point, and then the reverse fixtures begin at that stage. One of the biggest surprises, though, of the season, and I really believe this, is Sassuolo. They have a game in hand, but they're 1 point behind Milan. They win against Torino, which their game got postponed due to weather. Sassuolo's got 30 points, 6 points off first place. So at that point, you look at the small side who lost it, players like Zaza. I think they're going to be a surprise. I don't know if Sassuolo will fade. Di Francesco, their head coach, has done an amazing job. But there's the unpredictability of the season is just exactly that. We don't know who is going to be where in the top, at the end of the season. And remember, there are only 3 Champions League spots. So out of the 4 teams that I aforementioned, the ones who I think who can make a realistic run for the Scudetto, one of them isn't even going to be in the Champions League. Unless Napoli, there is only one way that could happen, and that's if Napoli finishes outside the top 3 in Serie A and goes on to lift the Europa League trophy. At that point, then Serie A will have 4 teams in the Champions League next year. It's a bit of an insane incentive. That's how Spain ended up with 5 teams in the UEFA Champions League this year. Because Sevilla went on to win, again, the UEFA Europa League last season. But Juventus, Napoli, Fiorentina, and Inter are fighting for the Champions League. And for, those 3 teams, Inter, Fiorentina, Napoli, haven't been in the Champions League in a while. Napoli crashed out the group stage 2 years ago in Rafa Benitez's first season. Unbelievably crashed out. How do you finish third in a group with 12 points out of 6 matches? Extremely unlucky for Napoli. Fiorentina hasn't been there in a while. They again themselves should have been in the Europa League final last season, but it wasn't meant to be. So that brings me to my next question to the audience: do we count out Roma? Is it over for them? Is it just over? They got blasted in the Champions League. They somehow were able to limp through to the round of 16 where they're going to be facing Real Madrid, who, by the way, won 10-2. 10-2 in La Liga this weekend. That's unbelievable. The offensive firepower of Real Madrid, or maybe it's more of a credit to the absolutely just terrible defense and discipline of Rayo Vallecano. That's unbelievable. But, for Juventus, you can say that the flip side as well in the Champions League. They're playing Bayern Munich, and who knows what's going to happen there. Moving on. So, I digress. Is it over for Roma? A lot of people say so. A lot of people think that it's over because they haven't been able to change coaches. They just did not they haven't got rid of Rudy Garcia, and now, frankly, it may be too late. It may be too late for them, and it may be over. They're sitting out there right now. It's 4 points off, but their play hasn't been there. 2016 is going to be a very, very difficult 6 months for Roma. And especially if they just cannot keep the mental aspect in check. A big defeat to Real Madrid, I think, would set the team over the edge. Everybody has seen the last 2 years what has happened. The defeat last year at home against Bayern Munich, which was crushing, a 7-1 or 7-2, I believe. That was 7-1 defeat, and then being killed by Barcelona. It destroys the team's psyche. And they're setting themselves up right now for another defeat I just don't see them being able to compete at the Bernabeu against Real Madrid. I just don't see it. They may well be able to hold them at home, but the back line of Roma is nowhere near enough. They're just not strong enough to withstand a barrage from Real Madrid's forwards. One of the other best-kept secrets in Serie A, and the Italian national team in general, is the form of Daniele De Rossi. I think for a few seasons now, De Rossi has not been the same player that people really think he was, and how he was, considered one of the best in Italy. I don't think he is one of the best midfielders in the world anymore. He plays such a rough and brutal style of football. I think his body has just not been there for quite some time. And the fact that he's the highest paid player in Serie A is beyond me, and it's really, I think, hurting them. A lot of problems for Roma. It will be impossible to offload Daniele De Rossi. He's one of the gladiators of Rome. Got a massive contract, but there's not so much that Roma could do except for hold on to him and hope that he can somehow turn it around. And it's the twilight of his career as well. He's not young anymore. The biggest problem with De Rossi is his physical condition. I really have my doubts against it. He's going to need to have a bit of a throwback game against Real Madrid in the UEFA Champions League come February. A few weeks off could be good for some of the players who've been nursing some injuries as well, coming back to 2016 as close to full strength as it possibly can be. Who knows? So we're going to be back on IFD Radio after this weekend coming up. Holiday, we're going to take some time off for the holidays as well. But like I said, the Mercato swings open, the door swings open January 4th. And from there, we're going to see a lot of teams come out with their strategies, I think, early on in the Mercato. There's, about a month or so to really evaluate a strategy. And we'll be able to see at that point who makes some of the big moves. But I hope you all enjoyed listening to this short segment of IFD Radio today. And it's been your host, Alex Mascitti. We'll see you again soon. Ale, by the way, happy Merry Christmas.